Pleasure when Marc Farzetta joins Good Morning NFC East. Farzy, is that a different studio back there?
We moved. The family moved. The home studio is being rebuilt. It'll look maybe like this, maybe not. I haven't really decided yet, but we got some things going on here. So yeah, it's a condensed version of the old studio, my friend.
So you're not just building a 50-foot shrine to Jalen Hurts already?
Well, first I'd have to take down the one to Nick Foles because you can't have two shrines in your house. But no, this is actually just a backdrop on about 7 Home Depot boxes. That's pretty much what's behind me right now. But yeah, the shrine, it's on its way because Jalen Hurts certainly deserves one for what he's been able to do with this Eagles team this season. It's absolutely incredible.
I can't believe the year he's having. If someone would have told me back in August the Eagles would have made the NFC Championship game, I think I would have been like, just by watching training camp, you know what? Yeah, I can believe that just because they look so good in training camp and Hurts look really good. I'm like, I can see them playing a team like the 49ers, but I thought it'd be on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. Going into last season, or I should say coming out of last season into the offseason, my stance on Jalen Hurts was, like, I think, similar to any rational thinking human beings, which is showed some flashes, definitely has talent. I want to see what he does in his first offseason, knowing he's going to be in the same system, knowing he's going to be the guy going into the next season and all that, and see where it goes from there because you saw the talent. Like, okay, let's just check off the most obvious box of all of them. The most obvious box was that he is extremely athletic, can buy time. A lot of the great quarterbacks in the NFL right now can do that, whether that's Patrick Mahomes, whether that's Josh Allen, which numbers-wise, last year I remember on my show doing a stat-for-stat comparison versus Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts isn't Josh Allen. Yeah, you're right, but that's not the point. The point is that a person can put these numbers together and then take a big leap forward in their career, and Jalen Hurts has certainly done that. But I also wanted to see the work ethic pay off because you also knew going into the offseason that Jalen Hurts had a historically incredible work ethic. And here's a rule I have, Jeff. I don't bet against anyone that has at least a little bit of talent and a great work ethic because you never know where that person's ceiling truly is. And watching Jalen Hurts last year, I thought best case scenario, this guy can establish himself as a franchise quarterback next year, meaning this year. With the work he put in the offseason, the upgrade of talent around him by Howie Roseman, great job by him this year, and the fact that he started out at a pretty good talent level as well, led me to believe that he was going to make himself the franchise quarterback after this year. But I wasn't expecting an MVP caliber season. I was not expecting the NFC Championship game. I was expecting this team to win 11 games this year, and they passed that threefold. So for me, I have been just blown away, like the vast majority of the NFL in what you have seen from Jalen Hurts this year.
Yeah, I think I had them at 11-6 when I made my season predictions, and maybe 12-5. I forget. All I know is I was way off, and it was like that the Super Bowl year too. I had them at 10-6. I thought they'd be 10-6. I thought they'd be a playoff team, take that next step. I thought Carson Wentz would take that next step, and they just blew that out of the water. I mean, the only thing I was right on that season was I remember someone asked me in August, if Carson Wentz were to go down and Nick Foles had to play like a game or two, would they miss a beat? And I said, no, they won't miss a beat because Nick Foles is the perfect backup quarterback for them. And I stood by that even when Carson Wentz was down. I called my shot. I said they were going to win the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. I said this team is too good. They're too talented. All Nick Foles has to do is run the game. Well, no, he did a lot more than that. And I think we see this year it's a lot different. You need Jalen Hurts to play. I love this feeling that it's like the Kansas City Chiefs. It's like the Cincinnati Bengals. It's like the Buffalo Bills. They are guys that, as long as they're on the field, you have a chance to win that game and the Super Bowl. I feel that way with Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I 1,000% agree with you. And here's the deal. Let's get away from what we do at the end of every season, which is see what happens down the line. Let's get away from what Jalen Hurts is going to be for his entire career. Let's get away from whether or not he's going to be an MVP candidate every single year, whether or not they're going to be 10-win teams, 11-win teams every single year and make the playoffs, win the division. Let's get away from down the line. Let's deal with right now. Right now, it goes without saying, but I think it still needs to be acknowledged for some people. Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback. Jalen Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And right now is all that matters. And when you have a quarterback like that, you always think you have a chance to win a game. You go back to the Washington Commanders game, probably their worst game of the season that Jalen Hurts played in. You still had a chance to win that game at the end because Jalen Hurts was your quarterback. Jalen Hurts actually played well. He had horrible drops by his wide receivers. He had fumbles by his wide receivers. Jalen Hurts played well, and receivers in general as well, because Dallas Goedert, although a face mask, had a bad fumble as well. Yeah. But you look at that game, Jalen Hurts played well. You look at the Colts game, which Darius Slay said after the win this past weekend in the divisional round against the Giants, Darius Slay said, that's the game that really jumped out to me with Jalen Hurts. That Colts game where you watched him and just said, damn, he is that guy. When you have a player like that, when you have a player that inspires his team the way he does and gives the team confidence that you're always in a game, that is the best definition you could have of an elite quarterback. All the great quarterbacks we've watched throughout our lives, NFL fans have watched throughout their lives, that's what they give their team each and every game. The chance to win no matter what. The belief they could still win the game no matter what. And Jalen Hurts certainly gives that to this football team.
And that's one thing I love about Jalen Hurts. And again, because Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow are left, you know they're winners. I know people are going to slam Patrick Mahomes if he loses this weekend to Joe Burrow. Say, well, he can't beat Joe Burrow. I'm like, the guy's going to win 2 MVPs and a Super Bowl before he turns 28. And you want to tell me he's not a winner? I'm sorry. Like, Joe Burrow's a winner too, wherever he wins or loses this game. It's clear. Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals had 5 playoff wins as a franchise before Joe Burrow showed up. He already has 5. Joe Burrow's a winner. Jalen Hurts we know Jalen Hurts is a winner. He's 15-1 this year. If you got the playoffs last year, he's 18-2 in his last 20 starts. I don't know what people want. When Jalen Hurts takes the field, the Eagles typically win the football game.
Yeah, he's scary. He's scary like that. That's, again, an elite quarterback, and that's what the Eagles have right now. And he is, just like Joe Burrow, only at the start of his career. 24 years old. And I love the stat. He and Brock Purdy are going to be the youngest quarterback combo to ever play in a conference championship game. 47 years and 208 days. That beats Marino, and I'm blanking on the other gentleman's name. But that's pretty incredible. To get this kind of experience this young is pretty incredible for both quarterbacks, but more so for Jalen Hurts because he's the guy looked at right now as a franchise quarterback, obviously. But what has really impressed me is not just all the physical intangibles and all that stuff this year, what he's been able to do with this team and the confidence I talked about. But a lot of people talk about that second year in the same system. And I think a lot of people were looked at last year when they brought that up as a point, which I thought was valid. A lot of people were looked at like, that second year in the system, he's a professional. What does that matter? Oh, it matters. It matters. This is only the second time since high school that he's been in the same system consecutive years. We have seen him now be able to make those anticipation throws that he was not able to make last year. We have seen him be a lot more confident in his checkdowns. He was not really that confident in the checkdowns that we saw from last year. And this year, when you look at those slant routes, when you look at those deep balls, those are pillows he is throwing. That pass he threw to Devontae Smith for his first pass of the game against the Giants was a pillow down the football field. He doesn't make that same throw last year. He made that throw with great consistency this year. Those slants to A.J. Brown we've seen throughout the season. He doesn't make those same throws last year. He made them this year. It was a great step forward, and it was all because he knew the timing with his receivers. He put the work in with his receivers, and he knew the scheme better than he ever had at the professional level.
Did you have a problem with Nick Sirianni calling him Michael Jordan?
I thought it was a little much. And if you're Jalen Hurts, just imagine this for a second, all right? Like, I don't know about you, but my mom is one of those moms. God bless her. Eleanor, she's amazing. I love my mom. But my mom is one of those moms that loves to do the bragging for her kids, whether it's my brother, whether it's me, whether it's the grandkids, whatever. She loves that. And every once in a while, I'm like, Mom, let's back it off right. It's easy right there. And I would think that Jalen Hurts had less of an issue with being called a superhero by Nick Sirianni than he did by being called Michael Jordan, because that's a little much. It's kind of like the thing where your friend's talking trash for you. It's like, he's going to do this. And you're like, yeah, get him. And then you're like, he's going to do that. And you're like, yeah, get him. And it's like, and he's going to be Michael Jordan. And you're like, all right, well, wait. Let's back it off for just a second there. The Michael Jordan thing, I think Nick Sirianni got a little carried away. But that is Nick Sirianni. I feel like when you're an emotional person, like Nick Sirianni is emotional, I feel like for the people that cover him, that know him well as a head coach like us, just in terms of his demeanor, watching every press conference, listening to everything he says, all that. I think we understand when you're an emotional person that those things are going to come out every once in a while, and you're like, you're just crazy. Yeah, it's fine. But I think Nick Sirianni actually believes it. And if you're telling me right now, this is why I hate comparisons, because nobody hears like during a comparison. Nobody hears that. They just hear is. It's the most botched thing we do with our brains as, I guess, English-speaking people, where when we hear this, it's just like, no, I'm saying he's like that. And it's like, we don't hear like. In our brains, we just hear is, and he is not Michael Jordan. And that's the first thing people jump to. And I think what they should really do is just listen for a second. And what he is saying is he inspires his team. Michael Jordan inspired his team. You could say this about a lot of great leaders. You can say this maybe not about just the greatest player that I've ever seen play the game of basketball, and perhaps the greatest athlete I've ever seen. It's like Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky in my mind, and of course Tom Brady, unfortunately. But for me, I think you got to just put the emphasis on the like. And the like is, if you have Michael Jordan, you always believe you're going to win. If you have Jalen Hurts playing the way he played this year, again, isolated to this year, not looking down the line, it's like having a great leader like that always makes you believe you're going to win.
And that's where I think Nick Sirianni was getting at, right? It's when this guy takes the field for us, we know we have a shot, no matter what. And I thought the silliest thing, and maybe it's because I don't want to call it inside info. I think it was well known. But Jalen Hurts' shoulder injury wasn't as bad as they were leading on. And I remember I was watching one of the national media shows, and I saw one of the national media insiders go, well, they're really concerned about that. I'm like, I almost felt like tweeting at the person saying, just curious, where are you hearing that information from? Like, seriously, where are you hearing that from? Because that's not a thing. Just like how A.J. Brown being frustrated on the sideline was not a thing.
Right.
I'm literally interviewing Kenneth Gainwell. Ed Kratz was next to me, and we both kind of said the same thing. Oh, A.J. Brown don't really look frustrated here. You know, he's smiling at his locker and, kind of happy they're going to the NFC Championship game. It's like, where do people come up with some of this stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. First off, I think people always want that storyline. They always want to build that drama. And I bought into it for a little bit there with Nick Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts was in so much pain. Nick Sirianni talking about his brother and how his brother was blown away that Jalen Hurts finished the game against the Bears. And I'm like, maybe there is something more to this. But then I go back to the players reacting to it. And Jason Kelce, I want to make sure I'm clear here. Jason Kelce did not laugh at the injury. Jason Kelce laughed at the way the injury was being perceived. Okay, I want to be very specific when I lay that out there. When they were asking about Jalen Hurts' injury, he was like, "Yeah, well, I guess he's hurt." Like it was like one of those things where you kind of were comforted by the idea that Jason Kelce wasn't freaking out about it, that everything was going to be fine and dandy when it came to Jalen Hurts. So I think when we see Jalen Hurts, the way we saw him play this past game, the way we saw him play to end the regular season against the Giants, it gave me enough confidence to realize that he was going to be 100% by this game against the Giants again to play in the divisional round. He was going to be at a level that was MVP worthy, and he certainly got that. And, man, did he deliver. And what a convincing game it was.
Now we got to go to the 49ers here. How confident are you that the Eagles are playing this team?
Very. I mean, in terms of their chance to win, I am very confident the Eagles will win this game against the San Francisco 49ers. For me, you have an elite defense in San Francisco. We all know Nick Bosa. We all know how great he is and all that stuff. But I believe a game like this where the teams are this close, the Eagles have a great defense as well. They have, I mean, you talk about, okay, you have Nick Bosa. All right, I'll throw in Hassan Reddick and the rest of this defensive line. Like, we can talk about that. You want to talk about a great secondary? We can talk about a great secondary of the Philadelphia Eagles. Pretty damn good secondary there. Combine that with this pass rush as well. That's a lethal weapon. Offensively speaking, man, are the San Francisco 49ers diverse. So are the Eagles. Christian McCaffrey, probably the best player on the field. I'm going to go ahead and hand that. But right there with him in terms of best player on the field is Jalen Hurts. I mean, certainly I'd go with Christian McCaffrey over I'd go Miles Sanders. And I love Miles Sanders, but let's call it what it is. So I believe in a game like this, where the teams are this close, let's not ignore what the NFL is. The NFL is a quarterback league. And Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy, as we've talked about for the vast majority of the beginning of this interview, We haven't even gotten to TGIF yet, Jeff. Jalen Hurts will be the difference in this game. Jalen Hurts is the guy that gives me the most confidence that the Philadelphia Eagles will beat, yes, let me say first, the Nick Bosa-led defense of the 49ers, and then, of course, beat the offense led by Brock Purdy.
Are you sold on Brock Purdy yet?
Let's put it this way. When I watch him, I throw out the window Mr. Irrelevant. And scouts have got it wrong before. There have been undrafted guys that have won playoff games, or game, if you're Tony Romo. But there have been guys that have done very well and didn't even get drafted. So I throw that out the window. And when I watched him, particularly in that second half and that great catch by George Kittle, that was incredible. I mean, the man was on point. The cojones you have to throw the ball for that first down, Kyle Shanahan dialing that one up for Brock Purdy, and to make that completion to all but kill the Cowboys at the end of that game, that was incredible. And I throw out the window Mr. Irrelevant if he's a late round pick. I mean, he's a guy going up against a fourth round pick in Dak Prescott. So I try to really throw it out the window because, look, all the work, all the money, all the travel, all the hours spent scouting, these guys can still get it wrong. There is such a thing as a bust. There is such a thing as a guy being picked, 1 through 5 to be the next franchise guy. And the next thing you know, he's not even in the league anymore. That does happen in sports, not just the NFL. So for me, I have bought into the point where the guy is a pro quarterback and the guy is well worthy of not being Mr. Irrelevant, because he certainly was relevant in that fourth quarter in the second half entirely for the San Francisco 49ers.
I think what upset me when people were criticizing Purdy early, this is really early, I said, well, I actually think the guy can get it done, and I didn't think he'd be this good. But I watched Brock Purdy in college. He's coached by a guy who I think could coach in the NFL, Matt Campbell. Runs an NFL-type system, has played with NFL players. And I said to Tone earlier, when he was drafted last, I actually thought he was picked. And, because I got my mind warped in so many things in the draft. And, when you get to the last 3 rounds, I'm like, wait, Brock Purdy wasn't picked yet? And then the preseason came. And one of my jobs for CBS was I had to track all the rookie quarterbacks in the preseason. I'm talking Brock Purdy, Scott Thompson, Anthony Brown. So I watched a lot of those preseason games. I'm like, Brock Purdy's not getting a lot of reps, but he can sling it. I actually thought him and Skylar Thompson were 2 of the more impressive rookies this year. And look what Brock did. Skylar Thompson played. He wasn't really that great, but say Skylar Thompson's on the 49ers, I know I'm using the Chris Sims thing here, but you have to wonder if he would do the same thing. But there's no doubt Brock Purdy can get it done. But my criticisms of him have been, okay, now you're facing the big boys. Now you're facing defenses that can get after you. You're not going to go... I feel like it's a Case Keenum type thing, right? The clock's going to strike McKnight. Right,
yeah. Yeah, I thought the same thing, and I said the same thing. I was watching the Niners Cowboys game with a buddy of mine, and I said the same thing. I was like, the clock's got to strike midnight on Purdy at some point. And I thought that was going to be the game, and obviously the offense did not look great in that game. Defense, the Dallas Cowboy defense did a great job in that game. They played very well. Just Dak Prescott, for whatever reason, is a very giving guy and just loves giving the football away. So much so that his own team actually tweeted that same thing out, which I thought was hilarious. Wow, what an acknowledgement by them. But in all seriousness, I thought in that game it wasn't going to be Purdy winning it. But when they needed him, he stepped up. He was accurate. He made throws. He made plays. He created time with his legs in that game. He was accurate when they needed him to be accurate, and that's what good quarterbacks do. When teams are struggling, when things aren't going your way for 3 quarters, you got to make sure you find a way to make it go your way in the fourth quarter. He was able to do that. When you look at the games the Eagles have struggled in this year that we talked about a little bit earlier, you found a way to rise above it and kind of hit the reset. Say, all right, fourth quarter, it's a whole new game. Forget everything that happened before. We're going to reset right here. Brock Purdy was able to do that against the Cowboys. I don't think he'll have that same opportunity to do that against this Eagles defense.
And that's what's scary. By the way, I'm glad you brought up the Cowboys tweet. So I'm good friends with the guy who wrote the story that tweet was attached to.
Oh,
and I haven't reached out to him yet because I kind of want to give him a few days. He writes for the Cowboys. He's a big Cowboys fan. I want to give him a few days, but I want to ask him if that person that made that tweet is still employed by the Dallas Cowboys organization.
That's a good leading question. That's a good opener. That's a good opener right there. When I saw that, I went, wow, naming names, highlighting unfortunate stats. Was that, did they get hacked? Did the Cowboys get hacked in that? Usually it's Cowboys struggle, lose a close one, that kind of thing. But look, I just can't get over how bad a coach Mike McCarthy has looked. And I have never been a Mike McCarthy fan. When the Cowboys hired him, I was happy. And that's never a good thing if you're someone who roots against the Cowboys, right? But watching him not know if he wanted to punt or not, look, you could make the case, hey, it's 4th and 10, you're in your own territory, but the game's on the line, go for it. You can make that case. I still think you punt in that situation. But if you're going to punt immediately.
Not 30 seconds later.
It was like maybe it was like my great aunt deciding if she wanted coleslaw with her tuna melt. It was like, do I want it? Do I not? I think I might want it. Maybe I don't, but all right, fine. I'll take it. Like, what are you doing? How do you not know at that point? Every little leaguer is taught before the ball's hit to you, know what you're going to do before it comes to you. And Mike McCarthy's like, maybe I'll punt. No, I just, okay. All right, punt team. It is enjoyable. It's the old, I'm going to fiddle as Rome burns. And watching Dallas football burn with Mike McCarthy at the helm after 2 good seasons, 12-5. Oh my goodness! And they won a playoff game. They dominated on the road against the Bucs, and then to see it crumble the way that it did. Oh man! And that I don't know if it's the technical term for it, but I know SVP Scott Van Pelt calls it pitchy woo woo when you do the laterals at the end of the game. To see that not even get one lateral in, to see that not even get a step after the catch by Ezekiel Elliott, oh, that was another fiddling as Rome burned. It was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Speaking of SVP, I think they needed to play the Bad Beats music for that play. Wouldn't that be so? So when that play happened, I'm thinking to myself, just coach speak. Is that Zeke snapping? Is that a nose guard? Oh, this might not end up well. And it didn't. And then I started thinking, was the play supposed to go to Zeke? Like, they actually, when did they practice this? Were they practicing for the flag football games and the Pro Bowl in 2 weeks and thought, you couldn't knock the guy down? I don't get, man, if I was a big 300-pound defensive lineman and had my chance to plant Zeke on the ground like that, I don't care who it is. You do it, and I feel bad for Zeke because that might have been his last play as a Cowboy.
It very well might have been. They couldn't have made it worse for Zeke if they gave him a triangle and were just like, come and get it. And they just left him out to dry on that play. And again, it was a thing of beauty because that play is, Kellen Moore has done a hell of a job. And I know he was the apple of everyone's eye after 6 weeks as the offense coordinator of the Cowboys. Maybe now, not so much. But watching that play get called, watching Mike McCarthy's reaction to it, watching Dak's reaction to it, and watching Ezekiel Elliott just lay there going I guess that's a season and maybe a career as a Cowboy. It was poetry in motion as far as I was concerned.
I like how Tone's pointing out here too, by the way. What makes it worse is the Niners called a timeout and the Cowboys still called the play. That is an underrated part of that. Mike McCarthy had time to think about this. And
yeah, and that's a great point, Tone. And the other part of it is that Dalton Schultz steps out of bounds, or excuse me, he doesn't get his second foot down. He does that. Maybe you have a chance at a Hail Mary. But again, the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot.
Situational football has always been bad for the Cowboys. And I kind of want to mention this, too, about Dak Prescott. I think Cowboys fans might finally become to the reality that he's not great. He's never going to be great. He'll always be top 10, top 12. And Tone pointed this out yesterday. He's Kirk Cousins.
Oh, wow. 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 No, I can't go there. I can't go because you have seen it so many times for so long with Kirk Cousins come up small. Dak, I feel like, is just starting the come up small mentality. Because what is he? 20?
He's 29.
29 now. The thing with Kirk Cousins that's so interesting for me is that he plays like the stats are always great for him. Like I think he's a great fantasy quarterback and all that. But then when the playoffs come, he just hits an absolute wall. With Dak, I feel like he's able to depend on so many other people around him. It's never all on him. I feel like with Cousins, it's more on him. Yes, he's got the best wide receiver in football in Justin Jefferson. I can't, maybe because he's done it in more than one place, whether it was Washington or Minnesota, he just has come up small. Maybe, I don't know, maybe with Dak, I think so many things have gone wrong around him because it's the Cowboys that I don't just look to him the way I look to Kirk Cousins. Like, maybe it's close, but I can't go full-blown Cousins just yet.
Yeah, Tone's telling me here, Dak is Kirk with the PR machine.
Love it. All right, I love it.
I mean, he's not, in a way, he's not wrong. Like,
he's not far off. I don't think he's far off at all. I don't put the two together immediately, but I think it's a good comparison.
Yeah. So this is what kind of, and I've been trying to tell Cowboys fans this for years. This is the year. This was Dak Prescott's best chance, I think, to go to the Super Bowl. And I thought this Cowboys team wasn't as talented as the team last year, and that team blew it. This team, when Dak played well, they played very, very well. Like, they were Super Bowl caliber, and I thought they had Super Bowl caliber defense, and with Tony Pollard, and again, Tony Pollard getting hurt played a lot of role in this, but their offensive line was a lot better than I thought. I thought they'd take a step back this year. They didn't. They won a playoff game. But what's the next step now? Like, Dak has never been to an NFC title game. It's been 7 years, and he had a golden opportunity to do that. All he needed to do was be good on Sunday. He couldn't even do that. And I don't know if it's Jerry Jones and the mortality clock or the pressure of being the Cowboys quarterback or the fact they haven't been to an NFC championship game since the Blizzard of 96. But it just feels like to me, with that franchise, they don't know how to take the next step without Jerry Jones getting in the way.
Now that's probably why I don't compare Dak to a lot of other quarterbacks in the NFL, because when you're a Cowboy, from what I've heard about guys that have had the cup of coffee with the Cowboys that have played throughout the NFC East, whatever, when you're a Cowboy, it's all about Jerry Jones. It's like you're talking about the guy that's the star of the radio in Dallas, right? And Jerry Jones. You're talking about the guy that's always out there after big games, big losses, whatever it might be, big wins, always down there on the sideline as well, always answering questions from the media, having media sessions himself. Like if Jeff Lurie did that nearly as often as Jerry Jones, it would be a very similar case here in Philadelphia, but he doesn't. He lets the team kind of take the helm, and he just, for the most part, sits there in the background. But the fact that Jerry is so involved in everything, the fact that he's been there for so long, the fact that you fired a guy who had won you 2 Super Bowls because of an ego trip, whatever you want to call it, you never really focus on the quarterback as much as you would because of the owner. Irsay, I think, has eked his way into that same type of category when it comes to what's gone on in Indianapolis, and they haven't had as much success as the Cowboys, which is scary. But I think because Jerry Jones is the face or faces of the Cowboys, I think a lot of people look at him more so than they look at their quarterback.
I do think it's ironic how the two franchises in the NFC East, who basically have silent owners, Jeffrey Lurie only speaks twice a year. Eagles have a Super Bowl. I never hear the Maris speak. Maybe once or twice. And the Giants have 2 Super Bowls since the turn of the century. When they fire a coach, that's when you hear them. Exactly. That's really the only time you hear the Maris. They got Dan Snyder, who thinks New Year's Day is Thanksgiving, and all the other questionable stuff he does. They don't have anything. They can't get out of their own way. They can't even get the name right. And then you got Jerry, who's so flamboyant, who's so outspoken. It's like, dude, take a chill pill. I really don't care what you have to say. But yet, people do because he's Jerry Jones, and you want to hear Jerry Jones win or lose. So Fred Gaudelli, who is probably the best boss I've ever had, Sunday Night Football producer, went over to Amazon Prime as part of the NBC package and took over that responsibility and stepping away now. Whenever he would come on for an interview and we'd ask about, the Cowboy bump, essentially, which is what all networks look forward to, whether you're NBC, CBS, or Fox, ESPN, you get this ratings bump with the Cowboys because and I say this not with adulation like other people say it, like America's team. The Cowboys are America's team, but it's not all praise.
It's because everyone in America has a feeling about the Cowboys. They either love them or they hate them. That's not saying that they represent all of America. That's the way I look at it. The Cowboys, everyone has a feeling about. And if you were to direct a movie, if you were going to cast a movie, and this is what Fred always says, if you were going to cast a movie to have an evil empire football owner, Jerry Jones is exactly what you're looking for. Exactly. So he is easy to look at and pinpoint as that owner of the evil empire, if you will. In baseball, George Steinbrenner was that same type of character. Everybody has a feeling about the New York Yankees. You either love them or you hate them. So when it comes to having that central focal point for a long period of time, Jerry Jones is central casting for that role.
That's the thing with, you're right. Like I know at CBS personally, we are looking forward to the cross-flexing. There's going to be more cross-flexing next year. Like Eagles Cowboys could be back on CBS as soon as next year. And there's nothing anybody could do about it because that's what you pay for, right? And you're right. Every network wants the Cowboys bump. Every single one. NBC gets high ratings because you know what I think more people enjoy than the Cowboys winning a football game is the
losing?
Cowboys. Yeah, it's the Cowboys losing a football game, especially a playoff game. Like I'm sure Fox would love to have Eagles Cowboys NFC Championship. I think they were going to get high ratings no matter what because it's the NFL. But
yeah,
the farther the Cowboys go, I can tell you this. Every network does like it because it just drives up clicks and it drives up whatever. Like, I'm sure First Take had its highest rated show yesterday because everybody went to see what Stephen A. Smith did.
Certainly. And it's all because people give a damn about the Cowboys. Just be like, I hate the Cowboys. I don't care about them. Well, if you hate them, you care. All right. So that's a contradictory statement right there. But everyone has got that. They want to see them win or they want to see them. Even me, I was conflicted. I'm watching this game, and as the game's going on and it's close, and the 49ers are not blowing out the Cowboys, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I actually want the Cowboys to win. I want the Eagles to beat the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. If there was ever a time where the Super Bowl wasn't the biggest game of the year, it would be the Eagles beating the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. And then it would be like the Super Bowl would be a consolation. We might throw a parade just to beat the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. Of course we wouldn't. But, you get what I'm saying.
My dad said they basically did that in 1980. I mean, when they kicked the crap out of them because Tom Landry, the hat, they were the Cowboys. They were one of the teams of the 70s. And
Wilbert Montgomery's big run, man. Absolutely.
Merle Reese told me on Saturday, I walked in the game with Merle Reese. We're just chatting about old Eagles games and, just Merle Reese's early career. And he said, I can't do Merle Reese's voice, but Jeff, you knew it was over right there. And like 4 minutes into the game. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, and I've heard that story before, but it seems like Merle's the one who made that story happen.
Yeah. And what's really funny is that Merle only talks, his regular speaking voice is his excited football voice. Yeah. It was over. Like that kind of thing. Like that's just his normal talk. That's just how he is every day.
I loved it. So Merle Reese is wearing this big CVS jacket, and I'm wearing my little blazer. I'm not going. I don't have one of those blazers, but I have one of those little ones. I'm like, Merle, I appreciate you representing my company here. he laughed about it. He goes, well, I'm cold. And that's what got that conversation going because we were like, how cold it is, like waiting to go into the stadium, and he was talking about the coldest games he ever had. He said Chicago this year was definitely one of them, and obviously the 1980 NFC, that's where that got brought up.
Oh, those network jackets, man. Those are the warmest jackets I have. My NBC Winter Classic 2010 jacket is the warmest jacket I've ever owned. And the thing about it, it's not like huge and puffy. It's got like a fleece inside a raincoat, inside another winter coat, but it's like a thin jacket, but it's the warmest jacket I own. Those network jackets are no joke. Yeah,
that's how my one CBS jacket is. It's like it's an Eddie Bauer jacket. I'd love to talk about jackets with you, Rob.
No, all swag. Let's talk about the greatest swag.
Yeah. See, I'm thinking you're Rob Ellis today. I'm losing it, man, because we get off the rails with this stuff too.
He is a proud member of the Still Have Hair community. We are bald community members, loud and proud, my friend.
I shave every day just for the heck of it. It looks better on TV.
You look beautiful. You just look so damn handsome.
Oh, thank you, Mark. So do you. Marc Farzetta, always a pleasure, my friend. The JAKIB pregame show is going to be buzzing. Are you going to be at Ocean this week?
I'm going to be at Ocean this week. Yeah, Tone left out a couple of my jobs. Okay, so the Farzy show, let's see, the pregame show, JAKIB Media, I'll be down there. Wings PA announcer. I was 7th grade homeroom representative. Yeah, so just a couple other things. But yeah, no, always good to catch up with you, man. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, buddy. Between you and Devin Caney, I don't know who goes on more.
You ain't kidding, brother. I'll see you, man.
I'll see you, Mark. Man, I got to start wrapping up the show a little bit quicker. Tone's probably, in my ear right now. Actually, he is. So, yeah, we got to wrap this up. For CBS Sports today, I recapped the divisional round. One thing we learned about each team. I think you'll like what I wrote about the Eagles. And I'm going to be running a ton of Eagles content this week. Tomorrow on CBSSports.com, why the Eagles will win the Super Bowl. Oh, man. Farzetta is already getting on this. Cousins versus Prescott broke my brain. Oh, man. Tone, you set it up, man. Dak Prescott is Kirk Cousins. We could have this debate forever, but we got to go to Birds 365. Maybe John McMullen will want to talk about this. Jay McDonald, John McMullen, Birds 365 coming up next. This is Good Morning NFC East. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great day.